3,000 degrees. I ain't worried about them open.
Free Solange. Solange is a monster. Solange wrote all Beyoncé hot. Tina Knowles, be a better mother to your daughter. She a monster.
Never thought that we could become someone.
Solange is the true talent. That's probably because she the only one that ain't been prostituted.
Richard Lawson reveals why Solange's mother sold her out, and the story behind that sentence is messier, darker, and far more calculated than anyone wants to admit. Because this isn't just about a family disagreement. This is about favoritism, power, money, silence, and a daughter who may have been standing in the shadows so long that the truth started leaking out through the cracks, and now suddenly Richard is talking, and people are asking the same question. Why now? Why after the divorce? Why after the settlement? Why after the clause that was supposed to keep everyone quiet? Unless something bigger is bubbling under the surface that nobody has fully exposed yet. Because insiders have been whispering for years that Solange was always the overlooked genius in the background while all the lights were pointed in one direction. And if that's true, then the real story isn't fame. It's who got sacrificed for it and who decided that sacrifice was worth it. And that's where the tension begins. Because the rumors say the house was run like a machine, a perfectly polished machine designed to produce one global superstar, and anything or anyone that didn't fit into that plan became secondary, became background, became silence. And people are now looking back at old interviews, old photos, old moments, and seeing something different, something colder, something more strategic than motherly. And the more Richard talks, the more those old rumors start sounding less like gossip and more like a pattern where one daughter's career was a global operation and the other daughter's struggles were treated like background noise. And people keep bringing up the teen pregnancy, calling it a cry for help that nobody answered. And if that's true, then that changes the entire narrative of this perfect family story that was sold to the public for decades. And if you really step back and look at the timeline, things start to look even stranger. Because Richard wasn't an outsider. He was inside that house, inside that marriage, inside that dynamic for years. Which means if he's talking now, people believe he's not just guessing, he's remembering. And that's what makes this whole situation feel less like random gossip and more like someone finally connecting dots that were always there. Because their marriage looked perfect in public, smiling photos, yacht wedding, interviews full of compliments, but behind closed doors something clearly went wrong. And when the divorce papers dropped and the reason said irreconcilable differences, people didn't buy it because that phrase is Hollywood code for we are not telling you the real story. And then the settlement revealed a lump sum payment and a non-disparagement clause. And that's when people really started raising eyebrows, because clauses like that don't appear unless there are things both sides don't want said out loud, which makes Richard talking now feel less like random bitterness and more like someone deciding the silence deal is no longer worth keeping. But the real explosion in...
When I re-met Tina, and we started hanging out, I felt a vibration because we vibrated on the same level. We talked about the same things. We had energy. We had a rhythm. We did things together, and it just was so natural that when her hand in mine was in mine, I felt a power, and I felt an energy, and I felt a vibration that made me feel so good and so proud to walk with her, to talk with her, to have every experience with her. And it was truly on a spiritual, vibrating level.
This story isn't even the divorce. It's the accusation that the family dynamic itself was unbalanced from the beginning, that one career became the family empire and everyone else revolved around it. And fans have been pointing to little clues for years, like the last name situation that never changed, like interviews that felt slightly dismissive, like subtle comments that sounded like admiration on the surface but felt like hierarchy underneath. And people notice those things, especially when they start matching the stories former group members told about. Image control, tanning, styling, and making sure one person always stood out as the visual center, while everyone else blended into the background. And when you line up all those stories next to each other, it stops sounding like coincidence and starts sounding like strategy. And if that strategy existed in the group, people are now wondering if it existed in the house too. And then there's
I envisioned the type of man I wanted. I prayed for the type of man I wanted, and I got pretty much that. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. But, you know,
No.
He has a lot of the qualities. No. He has a lot of the qualities that that I love, and we're having a really good time, and I'm enjoying life. So there is hope, women.
Sisters, because their relationship used to look unbreakable, protective, almost fierce, like they were a unit against the world, and now people are dissecting every moment where that closeness seemed to crack, every award speech, every missing public congratulations, every awkward silence, every moment where one name was mentioned and the other wasn't, and people keep going back to that elevator incident, that moment that looked like anger but maybe was something deeper, something older, something that had been building for years behind the scenes where nobody could see it until the door closed and the cameras caught a glimpse of what happens when pressure finally explodes. And the wildest part of this entire story is that the internet has turned it into a giant puzzle, digging up old conspiracy theories, old documents, old interviews, trying to prove that the family story we were told might not be the full story we should have been told. And whether those theories are true or not almost doesn't matter anymore, because the real issue people are focusing on now is the emotional math: who was supported, who was ignored, who was pushed, who was protected, and who was expected to quietly accept being second place in a race they might have helped build in the first place. And now Richard stepping forward is like someone opening a door that was supposed to stay locked, because if he really is confirming that Solange was overlooked while the empire was being built, then this isn't just family drama anymore. This is about rewriting the origin story of one of the most powerful families in entertainment. And if he's risking legal trouble to talk, then either he's incredibly reckless or he knows a bigger story is about to come out and he's trying to get his version on the record first. And what makes this whole situation feel even heavier is that the more people dig into the past, the more stories start resurfacing, and the more those stories start sounding like pieces of a much bigger machine that was carefully controlled from the very beginning. Because when former members started talking about image decisions, tanning, hair changes, styling choices that all somehow made one person stand out while the others blended into the background, people started asking who was making those decisions and why they always seemed to benefit the same person. And that's when the conversation slowly shifted from random music industry styling to something much more uncomfortable. Because if those decisions were happening in the group, then people started wondering what kind of decisions were happening inside the house, where there were no cameras, no managers, no fans. Watching, just family, expectations, pressure, and a very clear goal that everyone seemed to be working toward whether they wanted to or not. And suddenly the narrative about Solange being different or rebellious started to look different too. Because what if she wasn't difficult? What if she was just the only one who didn't want to live her entire life inside someone else's spotlight? And what if that created a tension that nobody wanted the public to see? Because the brand of that family was perfection, unity, success. And you can't sell perfection if people start noticing the cracks. And then there's the story about the name Solange, the ancestral connection, the story about destiny and family history and everything being connected in some almost mystical way. And on the surface, it sounds beautiful, like fate, like legacy, like everything was meant to be exactly the way it turned out. But when you look at this entire situation through a different lens, it starts to feel almost ironic, because here is someone whose name was tied to ancestry, history, identity, and yet somehow she's the one people say was pushed into the background while the future of the family brand was being built around someone else. And that irony is not lost on the people who have been watching this family for decades, because the more Richard allegedly talks about how the household operated, the more it sounds like everything was structured, disciplined, controlled, like a boot camp, designed to produce excellence at any cost. And excellence usually does come at a cost. But the question people are asking now is simple and uncomfortable. Who paid that cost? And Richard talking now, after the divorce, after the money, after the agreement that was supposed to keep everyone quiet, that's the part that really makes people suspicious. Because people don't risk legal problems for no reason, especially not someone who has been in Hollywood for decades and understands exactly how these contracts work, which means either he's angry enough not to care anymore, or he believes there is a narrative being written that he doesn't agree with, and this is his way of correcting it before it becomes permanent. And if that's true, then this story is not finished. Not even close. Because when someone from inside a very controlled, very private, very powerful family starts hinting that the public image and the private reality were not the same, that's not just gossip anymore. That's the beginning of a reputation battle, and reputation battles in Hollywood don't happen loudly at first. They happen in whispers, in small interviews, in little comments, in allegedly and word on the street, and sources say. And that's exactly how this story is unfolding right now, piece by piece, hint by hint, until one day someone says something too direct to ignore, and then suddenly the entire story explodes all at once. So now people are watching closely, because if Richard has already started talking about favoritism, about control, about Solange being overlooked, then the next question becomes very obvious. What else does he know? What else did he see? What else has he not said yet? And more importantly, why? Does he sound like someone who has been holding this in for a long time? Because when people start talking after years of silence, it's usually not because of one small argument. It's usually because of years of things they never said, years of things they watched, years of things they were told not to talk about. And when that silence finally breaks, it rarely stops at just one story. It usually opens the door to many more. And if that happens here, then the story people thought they knew about this family, the perfect mother, the superstar daughter, the supportive sister, the successful empire, might start to look very different. And not because the success wasn't real, but because the price of that success might have been much higher than anyone ever admitted out loud. And the uncomfortable truth about powerful families is that sometimes the real story is not about how they became successful. It's about what happened inside the family while they were becoming successful. And those are the stories that don't come out until years later, when the marriages end, the contracts expire, the kids grow up, and the people who were once quiet decide they don't want to be quiet anymore. And if that's what's happening right now, then this story isn't ending anytime soon. It's just getting started, and the most revealing parts of this story might be the parts nobody has said publicly yet, the parts that are still sitting in silence, waiting for the next person who decides they're no longer afraid to talk.